I think America has destroyed the brains and bodies of Americans. They put massive amounts of sugar so that you, your children, your family, your best friends, your community gets addicted.
We need to change lifestyle because we're heading for total disaster, and that's going to happen to our kids and grandkids.
Meet Brian Clement and Anna Maria Clement, esteemed directors of the Hippocrates Health Institute and pioneers in the progressive health movement. With a focus on disease prevention, longevity, and holistic wellness,
they have dedicated decades to transforming lives through innovative research and natural healing practices. Together, they empower us to embrace a healthier, more vibrant life.
In our country here, as well as most of the countries with money, the number 3 killer is modern medicine.
The 5 to 7 minute visit to your general doctor is not going to do much for you?
It may kill you. That's what it may do. It may kill you.
I agree. Why is America so sick?
It's intentional. This country allows 10,000 different deadly chemicals into our food supply. Europe, 300 or 400. Why?
There's plastic in everything. Plastic in the meat and the fish and the eggs, in your water, in the salt. This is highway to diabetes, obesity, cancer.
We really sit with the people and talk about lifestyle, but a lot of them just stand up and say, "Doc, just give me a pill." They don't want to change.
They want the easy way out.
But it leads to death.
Have you guys seen like an increase in infertility?
Oh, bet.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah, 1 in 6 couples cannot conceive. This is huge.
Are the foods really organic? What are we dealing with when we talk about organic?
The most important foods.
Welcome to another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. I'm your host, Sam Tejada, and today we have some wonderful guests here. We have Brian and Anna Maria Clement. They are with Hippocrates Health Institute. A lot of you guys have heard of it. It's a facility, a campus that's known globally. Welcome, guys.
So nice to be here with you.
Yeah, great to be with you, Sam.
Awesome. So we got Dr. Brian Clements and Anna Maria. So you have a PH.D. in nutritional science, correct?
Yes. Both of us do, yes.
Awesome. And you guys have been doing this. I mean, you guys are what I would label as the OGs in the space. I mean, you guys have been talking about a lot of the stuff that we're hearing today about getting people to live healthy. You guys been preaching this for longer than what I've probably been alive. I'm 37 years old.
Yeah, so I started 54 years ago.
Wow.
In a month, it will be 55 years ago, my professional career. And Anna Maria, what, 52?
50, yeah,
50
exactly.
years. But the difference is that when I met Anna Maria in Stockholm, I was over there lecturing in 1977 and walked into the room, and she was running Europe's most famous center for inflammatory disease. And unlike here, where we've had to battle the system the whole time, we have to fight the system to fight for your life. There, her government were sending citizens from Sweden to her clinic because they realized the value of natural and progressive healthcare.
So one of the things that is very bothersome to me is, and we were talking about this backstage just a minute ago, there's a huge disconnect in natural medicine, right? Yes. Even like here in the United States, every state is completely different. Some states allow the practice of naturopathic medicine.
Yes.
Other states, you say the word naturopathic doctor, they try to put you in jail. Like here in Florida.
Like here in Florida, yeah.
I think the last few naturopathic people that we had here just died off probably a few years ago.
Yes.
You know? Why is that? Why is there such a huge disconnect?
You have to remember that politics are controlled by industry, and one of the most powerful industries in this country and around the free world, the Western world, is the pharmaceutical companies. And they pretty much put money in the pockets of the politicians on both sides, Republicans as well as Democrats. And they legislate to get these laws passed. Now, when Florida was looking at licensure back in the 1940s and 50s, chiropractic and also naturopaths were fully approved here. And they never really phased it out in the state of Florida. They never made a ruling.
Right.
And what happened is we went back as naturopathic doctors with people from all over the state. It must be 15 or 20 years ago then. And as soon as the pharmaceutical companies found out that we were all in the process of relicensure or affirming our licensure, they shut it down. Wow. So they went in front of the Republican-led Congress here in the state and shut the whole thing down.
That's crazy. And you look at the training that these naturopathic doctors go through in these other states, it's a doctorate program.
Sure, we're doctors.
You're talking about years of really understanding, looking at patients through metabolic health versus this disease focus type of thing that we have going on currently. And you go in some other states, these naturopathic physicians even have hospital privileges. They can write prescriptions and everything else.
That's
For me,
correct.
it's just, it's too much of a disconnect.
Well, let's go a little bit deeper, Sam, because to me, it's not democracy. When you can say or dictate to an American that they only have particular things they can choose to maintain their well-being, and more important, to save their life, that's criminal activity to me.
Yeah.
It's nothing less than criminal activity. If, by the way, an American wants to get on a fan and swing around and whistle Dixie, we should encourage that. And what we're doing is not whistling Dixie and swinging in a fan. Our institute created the field of alternative healthcare, holistic healthcare,
Right.
complementary healthcare. We created the word lifestyle medicine. So 70 years ago, we opened our doors in Boston, and we've been now working with hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world. As we sit in this studio and speak, there's people from 9 countries at Hippocrates at this point. And we're not lucky like docs that see people when they're first sick. After they work them over and they fail, they come to us.
Right. It's almost like their last leg they're standing on, and they're looking for any alternative treatment. And what's interesting is, you know, I spent a lot of time there in Hippocrates with you guys, and you would see people that they would basically wheel them in a wheelchair, can't even walk, and they spend a good amount of time there, right? You guys have the boarding facility there where people stay, and you see them. They end up leaving walking.
Oh, it's amazing.
You know, and it's just like, just imagine if you were the first line of treatment
Yeah.
instead of the last one, where now it becomes extra work, you know?
Well, I mean, what has really surfaced is that in our country here, as well as most of the developed, meaning countries with money, the number 3 killer is modern medicine now. So let's be clear.
Right.
So if you want to die, one of the great options you have at this point is practice pharmaceutical medicine. Do what they say. Now, in logical sense and terminology, people should be shocked, appalled, and rejecting lock, stock, and barrel that system. And I used to be younger and foolish and thought it was the doctors. The poor doctors are victim of the system too.
They're part of the system.
They're
Right.
victims.
Yeah.
I've never met, and I know 2,000 doctors by name, and thousands more that I've lectured to at the top universities all over the world over the last 55 years, that went into it for the wrong reason.
Right.
When they're 18-year-old girls and boys, they don't say, hey, I want to be through a gruesome education and residency for 12 years to not make a whole lot of money. Because if you want to make money, you drop out of school, go to Wall Street. That's what you do. And they get into that school, what I call it the Rockefeller training, because he hijacked medicine back in 1917, a factual statement. And now they're being trained to be glorified pharmacists.
Right.
And they didn't know that. That's not what they bought. Recently, Anna Marie and I were watching an amazing PBS interview with a young black woman whose sister happened to be a doctor. And there was a great young, articulate doctor, maybe 35 years old, Northwestern, one of the great schools in the Midwest.
Okay.
And she said, you know, in the year 2021, 20,000 doctors quit. And we just did a national poll in all 50 states here, and 25% of licensed doctors presently want to leave medicine in the next 24 months, 2 years.
Wow.
So she looked at him and asked the right question. She said, are they burned out? And he looked directly at the camera and said, no, we're disappointed. So the doctors are disappointed. The system is failing. Challenge a word I say, because you're going to find out I'm right. It's a number 3 killer. We're cleaning up their mess and have done it for a combined 106, 107 years. Mm-hmm. And it's no longer time to discuss it. It's time to radically shift and change. And if we don't, we deserve exactly what we get.
What we're getting right now. And really, it's up to us now to change the course of medicine.
Yes, it is.
Right? And I'm seeing it every single day on the Liquivita side, because obviously we're on the pharmacy side distributing the IV nutritional products. And we're getting a lot of these doctors that are frustrated, that are leaving traditional medicine that want to take more of this proactive, preventative approach with their patients. And you're just seeing it. You're seeing it every single day. They don't want to deal with it. And I think a lot of the stuff that you guys did from the beginning has really set the foundation where they're finally opening up their minds to this and studying more, going to these accredited organizations and learning more about metabolic health, learning more about nutrition, which, you know, I keep on hearing it. I see it on social media all the time. Doctors talking about, I took a very basic nutritional course when they went through medical school that didn't even go deep into understanding the metabolic pathways, understanding the Krebs cycle.
Well, it's not a nutritional course. It's a very surface thing, so they can say they had 6 hours during a 8-year or 9-year education. So it's really not even worth talking about. University of Arizona does the most elaborate. What they're teaching is dangerous. Let's put it that way. We just discussed with one of our colleagues and friends, one of the top 3 eye doctors in America, graduated Johns Hopkins, Yale University, and MIT the other day. And he said, you know, I have now more than a 70% improvement when I added lifestyle, diet, and nutritional supplementation into my practice.
I believe it.
This is a mainstream doctor. He said, the first time I thought about it 15 years ago, I thought it was a joke. What could a pill, what could nutrition do with it? He said, I didn't know a word. Yale never taught me that. Johns Hopkins never taught me that. MIT never taught me that. He said, but I can tell you it is frightening. There's 9,000 doctors in a group called Lifestyle Medicine Doctors now. Then you have newbies, I call the newbies, in integrative medicine. They're really doing the same old stuff, just with chemical supplementation. What we need is a lock, stock, and barrel shift to what you eat, what you think, how you move, how you exercise, and you and I can then help to speed it up with IVs and supplementation.
Right.
You don't get it straight at the beginning. This is just shallow stuff.
So you're saying the 5 to 7 minute visit to your general doctor is not going to do much for you?
It may kill you, is what it may do. It may kill you. I mean, that's
I agree. Yeah, and you know, the thing is they've been stuck, and those integrative doctors that are trying to make the shift, they're still stuck in this algorithmic type of treatment.
Yes.
Right? Where it's like, okay, well, if this person has cholesterol levels at this, we got to prescribe them this.
Exactly.
You know, and it's like they're not even thinking. They're just going based off that algorithm that they've been taught in medical school. And that's where now they have to take that deeper dive. And you know, we've dealt with some of these doctors that we've seen them make a tremendous shift, like Dr. Davis, right?
Exactly. He's
Dr.
a tremendous
interventional cardiologist, one of the top practices here in Florida. And he closed up. He says, you know what? I'm done with this. I can't spend 7 minutes with my patient to try to make him well. And I'm spending 7 minutes in 40 to 50 patients a day to basically hit the numbers that the insurance company wants. And then all the pharmaceutical companies, all they want me to do is prescribe.
Well, let's use Dr. Davis. Many of you don't know who we're talking about, but Dr. Davis is a young man, maybe he's 40. And what makes him unique, because remember, I know a lot of these people for a very long time, is he is diligently studying the same way you would at medical school, everything other than medical school. And so what's delightful, every time I meet him, we're having these remarkable conversations about the latest research, the latest data. And that makes him as good as he is. Also, let's talk about the courage it took to give up a practice where he was making handsome amounts of money. He said to me, he confided in me, that his wife questioned his sanity. She's an attorney.
Right.
So she said to him, what are you talking? What are you going to do? And he said, I don't know, but I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And because he's who he is, now his practice is much, much, much more successful, helping people authentically than he was harming and hurting people and not really doing what he should be doing, and the oath he took.
Right. And you know, now he actually just opened up a few weeks ago this beautiful longevity center with all of the fitness in Sarasota, fitness equipment, hyperbaric chambers, you know, the hard shell ones. I mean, this thing is state of the art. I don't think there's anyone else that has these tools that he's put there. So, but yeah, that's something that we're seeing more and more of, right? And I'm even seeing a lot of surgeons, right? Surgeons that are starting to implement a lot of these other modalities to help the recovery process, even pre-surgery. They're making sure that people are getting the red light therapy, doing hyperbaric chamber, making sure they're doing their nutritional IVs, making sure their diet is on point every single day, because they know that the outcome is going to be more of a positive outcome than what they're used to just doing surgery by
In
itself.
pre-med, every doctor learns that your immune system determines the outcome of your well-being. How long is he going to live? How long is she going to live? Genes play only 5% of a role. And what we know is your lifestyle can turn genes on and turn genes off. So a competent doctor like these surgeons, or any other type, know if I feed the person well, or I give an IV of glutathione, or I actually put them in a hyperbaric chamber, I'm activating the very immune system that ultimately is what heals you.
Right.
The doctor doesn't heal you. We're incapable of healing you. All we can do is facilitate nature and what your body's programmed and evolutionarily developed to do.
Right.
We cannot invent a new immune system. We can't do anything like that. But we can support that system, and that's where we are now.
Giving you basically the right tools and the raw ingredients your body needs to heal itself.
Absolutely.
Right. Brian, let me ask you this. There's a lot of talk all over the news, the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again.
Yeah.
Why is America so sick?
It's intentional. Today I did a 4-hour lecture to the guest at the Institute, and I explained that they would like everyone to be dumbed down, that this country allows 10,000 different deadly chemicals into our food supply, Europe 300 or 400.
Wow.
Now, why? Why? Years ago, maybe 20 years ago, a colleague and friend of mine said to me, do you ever go to a grocery store? I said, sure, if they have organic food, I'll run in and get water. And he said, but do you ever look at the other aisles? I said, no. I said, here, I have a list of the 10 most purchased foods in American grocery stores. You're a chemist. You'll understand this. Look at the ingredients. I came out white in the face. I couldn't breathe. I was shocked. 8 of the 10 most popular foods had deadly, cancer-causing, mind-altering chemicals in, of which most of them had no purpose to be in there. They weren't preservatives. They weren't coloring. They weren't stabilizers. They were in there, noted. Everyone who knows chemistry knows that these are carcinogenic substances. Now, why are they there? Why do we, by the way, put out stories how alcohol is good for you, where the research basically said, if you drink 2 drinks a week and you're trying to recover from breast cancer, you have a 50% higher incidence of mortality if you drink 2 drinks a week. I don't know anyone that drinks 2 drinks a week. They're drinking 2 drinks a night. And
2 alcoholic drinks.
2 alcoholic drinks.
Right.
Okay. And to top it all off, sugar. So way back at the turn of the 20th century, not 21st century, they recognized how you get people hooked on product is sugar. Now, one of the 35 books I've written is Sweet Disease. And Sweet Disease, I quoted a study out of Princeton that was stunning. They did down-to-earth, smart research. They went on the street, got heroin addicts and cocaine addicts, got them in a van, gave them $100 each, did MRIs on their head. And they showed all of the cocaine addicts had part of their brain that lit up, all of the heroin addicts, other part. Then they got us, sugar addicts. Who's not a sugar addict listening to me today? You may not think you are, but I can promise you are.
Oh, yeah.
The entire brain lights up.
Wow.
So they surmised correctly between 28 and 32 times, between 28 and 32 times more addictive is all forms of sugar. So you say, well, Brian means white sugar. I mean honey. I mean maple syrup. I mean agave syrup. It's one of the worst, by the way.
And any kind of sugar.
Any kind of sugar. I don't care if you get organic dates and take it out. The body's not programmed for that level of sugar.
Would you say that when you have a sugar addiction like that, you have to put yourself into a rehab?
It's almost like that. I mean, one of the things that happened, I never drank as a kid. Sadly, my drug of choice was grass, and I would be a lot smarter if I didn't huff it up.
Do you guys
Especially-
drink? Do you guys drink alcohol whatsoever at all?
Never.
See, I've never. I'm not an alcohol kind of guy.
Yeah.
When I have a glass of wine here, or I'm the kind of person that if I go on a cruise, I prefer to have a pina colada without alcohol.
Yeah.
Because it tastes a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, and you feel better after.
I feel better. So for us, I feel like us humans, we take something that's technically not even for human consumption, and we add all of this stuff to try to make it taste good for us to be able to consume it. It doesn't make sense.
But was the motivation only taste? And I agree, yes. Remember, you're also programmed, our primal human body is programmed to get sugar, as an energy source and fat.
Right.
So they've hyped this stuff up. I go one step further. I think they put massive amounts of sugar so that you, your children, your family, your best friends, your community gets addicted.
Right.
I was coming off a medical stage at a major medical conference years ago, and here's a guy I didn't like. It takes a lot for me not to like you. I mean, Hitler's on that list, a few people like that. And it's Dr. David Kessler, former head of the FDA. And one of the reasons I disliked him so violently is that he went after one of the great American heroes, Dr. Brzezinski, who was actually, I was sending people to him reversing brain cancer naturally with your own antigens and antibodies. And he came over and made me look at him. He grabbed my arm in a way I did, and it was hard for me not to. And he said to me, I used to think guys like you were quacks, but no more. And I thought, what a weird introduction.
Wow.
And I said, what are you doing, Dr. Kessler, to be polite and let the steam go down? He said, well, I'm working on childhood obesity. So my ears perked up, because if you think we're sick, you wait. This is like phase one. 72% of American children are overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. And the number one killer of cause of disease and premature aging is fat. And so I listened, and he said, I want you to know that I've discovered that all of the international major conglomerate food companies put synthetic opiates in the food beyond sugar.
Wow.
So I'm listening now, and I'm about ready to speak. And he has a book. You may want to read this, certainly if you're a physician listening to me. It's mandated you read this, and that's called The End of Overeating, and he describes that. So beyond sugar, that's 28, 30, 32 times more addictive. Now they put synthetic opiates that I asked, questioned him, how is that legal? He said, these are not on the illicit drug list. These are opiate-creating, dopamine-activating chemical substances that you can't put that cookie down. You can't put the McDonald's hamburger down. You can't put the French fry down. So what do I think about America? I think America has destroyed the brains and bodies of Americans. I think this is a holocaust of humanity going on at this point. And I think if we don't change it, we are not humane. We are not civilized, and we cannot survive as a nation.
I believe that. This is truly like the real pandemic.
This is the real pandemic.
Forget
other one was
COVID. This is the real pandemic.
This is it.
Yeah.
This makes a pandemic which was planned and created like a Boy Scout camp. I mean, this is really something. Every single day, Anna Marie and I are sitting in our office dealing with parents of 5-year-old kids that have brain cancer. If you said that to me a half a century ago, I would have popped you. I would have said, that's a bad joke. Kids don't get brain cancer. Number one killer of kids now. When I was in school, they used to talk about adult onset diabetes. You had to work really hard 50, 60, 70 years of your life, eating crappy food and sitting on your butt watching television to get diabetes.
Right.
10-year-old kids have the same thing it used to take 60 years to get, which is, by the way, totally correctable. I've never worked with a type 2 diabetic that did what we and our medical team suggested. They didn't get better. They've created an industry of deception.
Right.
This is lies. I mean, this is lies at such a disastrous level. Cancer is not curable. We have a program at the Institute now with one of the leading doctors that reverses Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
I mean, come on. So what you're being told is a box of lies that even the doctors believe most of the time. So I can't blame the doctors.
They've been programmed.
They've been programmed. And everyone says they're greedy, they're greedy. I don't think it's about greed. I think it's about arrogance, confusion, and realization. They came to a realization by the time they're 40 and practicing medicine 5, 10 years. Hey, I've been conned.
Yeah, yeah. Anna Maria, what are some of the foods that you're really seeing that are becoming very toxic to people's health?
Well, first of all, there's plastic in everything. So now you have plastic in the meat and the fish and the eggs, in your water, in the salt. It's microplastic, so you don't see it. It's so tiny. But this is highway to diabetes, obesity, cancer. And every year they will tell us that we're going to have a cure for cancer, and they kind of fool us thinking that it's possible because they never wanted that, right? So now Queensland in Australia University actually did a study of like 130 countries, and they found that by 2050, from now 2022 to 2050, there's a 77% increase in cancer.
Wow.
So what are we doing? I mean, I think everybody needs to understand that we need to change lifestyle because we're heading for total disaster, and that's going to happen to our kids and grandkids.
So my first question with the cancer is like, there's all this cancer awareness and all of this millions of money being raised.
Exactly.
Where is this going? Where's this money going?
It's going into
at this point, I would assume that we would have cured cancer with the millions of dollars that we've raised.
Well,
Yeah.
there was no objective to cure cancer.
No.
I mean, the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, the American Diabetic Association, they're fronts for the pharmaceuticals. So the impoverished pharmaceuticals who make billions of dollars seemingly don't have enough money to do research to create new drugs that are not going to work. And so they go out and they petition you to march on streets and collect more money so they can now create drugs that do not function. They do not work and they do not do their job.
I feel like it's this big cycle, right? It's because you mentioned American Heart Association. So the first thing that came to my mind is, there's just all this talk about Kellogg's. The Kellogg's you get here, the cereal, significantly different than some of these countries in Europe, right? But then you look at the box of Kellogg's here, it says approved by the American Heart Association on the box. It says
Why?
it's heart healthy.
What do you think? They're writing checks to the American Heart Association.
So
Sure.
I feel like somebody's keeping us sick to then get the pharmaceutical business.
Well, listen, Sam. All you have to do is watch television, primetime TV. One commercial is for fast food or chips or candy bars. The next commercial is a pharmaceutical commercial. So I mean, they're out of the closet, man. They're not even hiding themselves anymore. They're telling
scary.
you, this is what we're going to do with you. And when you get addicted, you can't change.
Right.
You know that. You were one of the courageous professions that I've always admired. You were out in the front line and picking people up when they're dying. And how much drug interaction have you had over the years? And that's addiction that's really looked down upon. But are we looking at the addiction of sugar, the addiction of opiates they put in the food, the addiction of patterns
Right.
that we have? And when you have an addicted culture, you can manipulate them, and they've done a terrific job with this one. Many great doctors I've known over the last half century have said to me, we really sit with the people and talk about lifestyle, but a lot of them just stand up and say, Doc, just give me a pill.
Yeah.
They don't want to change.
They want the easy way out.
They want
Yeah.
the easy. Well, it appears, as you know, the easy way out, but it leads to death.
Right.
Because remember, we can't let go of the statistic. It's the number 3 killer in this country now.
Right. Wow, that's scary. That is very scary. So when we start talking about food, because obviously one of the things that you guys preach and educate people on is the importance of a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot of talks about you got to make sure your foods are organic. Yeah. Are the foods really organic? What are we dealing with when we talk about organic? Because I'll tell you one thing before you answer. When I take a bite into a strawberry, even an organic strawberry, it tastes significantly different when I go back home to Dominican Republic
Oh, you bet.
and have a strawberry.
Soil.
People in Dominican probably wouldn't eat this stuff.
No. Yeah, I call it hospitality fruits and vegetables. They look pretty,
Hospitality.
but they have no taste. And if they don't have that taste, I would assume there's no nutritional value behind it either.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm from Sweden. I go home and cucumbers taste cucumber. It
Right.
tastes nothing here. No, the soil is so depleted in our country because we've been using totally different farming. So the ones that gets into organic farming, it takes years for them to have good soil. So, we grow organic at the Institute. And it's a lot of work to take care of soil. And that's the bottom line for all of us.
For 70 years, we've only served organic food to our guests.
Yeah.
We would not put pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides. But let's quote a study out of Stanford. So they looked at commercially grown organic food, commercially grown food for nutrition, not to say there's not genetic modification in pests. There isn't any in organic food. There isn't genetic food.
Okay.
And what they found is the nutritional value is approximately the same. So these large California farms, thousands and thousands of acres, are growing on crappy soil. But I still don't want to get, GMOs, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and CRISPR,
Right.
which is worse than GMO at this point. So again, the most important foods are germinated nuts, seeds, grains, and beans you can grow in your own house in the middle of a snowstorm in Alaska in January. And these are the most powerful food medicines that have ever been researched in the history of modern medicine.
Why is that?
Well, because think of a seed. I asked the same question when I joined the team of Hippocrates in Boston in 1975. I said to our founder, Ann Wigmore, why are these sprouts so much better? I'm thinking they're baby, they're smaller, they can't be as good. She said, look at a sunflower. We grow sunflower greens. We brought that to the world, by the way, sunflower greens. She said, if I put that into the ground in 7 weeks, it's a 15-foot plant with 2,000 seeds on it. She said, do you think that has the power to do that in it? Bingo. Now, we speed up to the 1980s, and they started to do studies on why foods are medicine. Now, the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, said it. Let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. Went over everyone's head. They take oaths, have nothing to do with food. They found something called phytochemicals in it. Now, this is really magic, but it's science magic at this point. They found that every raw, unprocessed plant have these medicines in it that actually were created before animals were on this planet. Remember, the planet was completely water and dead. First creature was a blue-green algae, a cyanobacteria, that created oxygen. Okay. And then the second one was sea algae. Land came. The first land on the planet was Australia. It popped up 1 million years sooner than anything else. Ocean goes back and forth. Grass is the first plant. And that became a redwood tree, and you and I and everything else that you ever see, every living thing. Now, with that said, what the plants program, now think about the infinite wisdom, and you got to carry with this. You intellectuals are going to lose us here because you're too smart to know anything. So, programmed into plants hundreds of millions of years ago, and that's not an embellishment, were medicines that heal our species that just showed up recently. Wow. So we now know what's in a plant, sulforaphane, that kills and corrects cancer, as Hopkins said, more effectively than anything humans ever discovered in a laboratory.
Amazing.
We know exactly what takes care of heart disease. But once you cook the plant, process the plant, they're gone. They're called phytonutrients or phytochemicals. So why have we been so successful? At the turn of the 21st century, we won an award for more people reversing advanced disease than any institute in the history of medicine, because we're giving them something simple. We're not glorifying it, jazzing it up. I came up and spoke for you in Boston. What did I yell at that audience about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
that
I
was
said,
a hit.
And what really touched me is I thought that people knowingly were doing the wrong thing. But I really got in that room that they didn't know they were doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They didn't know that putting the wrong form of supplement into a vein is damaging and dangerous for you.
Yeah. And listen, the feedback after you went to speak at the Vibe conference, I mean, their heads were spinning. We had over 500 doctors in that room, that are trying to get into this alternative medicine space, which I hate that word alternative medicine.
Yeah,
it needs to be mainstream.
This is real medicine.
It's a real medicine.
The other's an alternative that's failing.
Right. But you really let them have it, where it's just like, because a lot of them are still, again, in that algorithmic type of treatment, with their patients. And it really got a lot of these doctors thinking out of the box. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted you guys to come on the podcast, because these doctors want it. They have to learn it. And there's not that many platforms out there for them to actually learn it easily and accessible.
No, you're exactly right. As you know, twice a year we have doctor days at the Institute. And, I never want to create a schism. I think what we need to grow up, mature, and wise up and get everyone at the table. I'm not against anyone. I'm for everyone that has something to put in. If you're a conventional doctor, mainstream, you have something I don't have. You can do something I don't do. Get that round table and leave your ego at the door and say, what are you really good at?
Right.
If I have an emergency, you know that you don't bring them to Hippocrates. So I'm in a car crash or I just had a heart attack. You bring them to the emergency room.
Right.
That's where America shines. We're the number one in critical care. We're number 57 in health care.
Right.
And we pay double the money of any other country. Germany's number 2. We fail completely, and we harm and hurt people. Not because of the doctors, but because of the system. And they get away with it because we never call them on it.
Right.
And they've made it so that it's only one option. Take a pill, go to the doctor. By the way, why doesn't, as in Anna's country, insurance pay for people to come to us? Do you know how much money, trillions of dollars they'd save? When we get people so they don't need medicines, and they're going to live longer, and they're not going to be in hospitals, they're not going to be having heart attacks and strokes and cancer. I mean, it doesn't even make economic sense, but it makes sense for who? The farms.
Right. You know, in other countries, it's been known that doctors get paid to keep you well.
Yes.
Versus here, they get paid to treat you once you're sick.
Well, the sicker you are, the better it is for them.
Right.
Economically.
Yeah.
Pretty sick system.
But I agree with what you said. You know, like the critical side and coming from emergency medicine. Yeah. But that was only about 10% of the calls I would run.
As you said that earlier.
You know? And it was very frustrating.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Sam. So 90% of the money, which is really the most, probably the biggest amount of money we spend, are on these calls.
Right.
So you're saying 90% are people who are out of control in their lifestyle.
Completely out of control in their lifestyle. And you walk into these homes, I mean, you just see tons of shit for food.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it starts. They're not exercising. They're extremely overweight. You know, you have all kinds of chronic issues that have developed, breathing problems, heart problems. And how I told you, I would see it little by little, just them circling down the drain. You know, it's one thing a drug addict, once they start doing drugs, you just start seeing their habits getting worse. Yeah. And you just start seeing a lot of lesions and stuff growing on their face and all kinds of issues. But I'm talking about
slow death.
The regular mom and dad, the family, right? Where you just start seeing it and you see the family members. What ends up happening is like the father starts getting sick. And then what happens is everyone else starts stressing about it because they don't know what to do.
Sure, what are they going to do?
So now there's a psychological component where now the family's getting sick. And now they start picking up habits. They start drinking and doing this because they're struggling that the father's going to pass away. Yeah. You know, so now it becomes this vicious cycle where it's like everyone's just getting sick.
And you go to a doc now, this wasn't when I was young. They put everyone on antidepressants. That's the new thing. So every disease you have, they put an antidepressant. And the other thing I've seen, this is one of the biggest insults to patients. When they don't know what it is, when they can't figure out what it is, they tell them that it's a psychiatric problem. This is appalling to me, that you don't know how many thousands, and I mean thousands of people I've worked with, that we discovered what they had, and some had been to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 doctors. Talked to a woman on Friday that basically said that she had been to 38 different doctors. They kept saying they had a psychiatric problem.
Oh, wow.
And what she had is she had a tumor inside of her body that nobody bothered to scan or ultrasound ever.
That's scary.
Yeah, and think about how many years that went on.
That's scary that you're getting sick. You know something's not right. And now they're labeling you as a crazy person.
Crazy person, to top it all off. And this is common. It's not like an oddity. This is a common thing we hear.
Yeah, man, that's tough. That's a tough one. So, what you earlier you were talking about the importance of these raw ingredients, but you mentioned that if you cook food, you basically kill it.
Yeah.
Right. So, what's your intake of microwave?
A microwave is one of the best ways to destroy. Now, how does a microwave work? Probably nobody thought about it. You just think it's convenient. It actually takes some molecules and spins them in the opposite direction. When they smash against one another, it heats up and gets soft. So that's what you're actually doing. When microwaves were about ready to come out, they realized it created chromosome damage, DNA damage. Wow. That's well documented. And so when you have a trigger that makes your DNA and RNA go down, your immune system is obviously going to go down, that make you more vulnerable for disease and premature aging. This is 101 science we're talking about again, but nobody thinks about it. Even if you put water in to heat up for tea or coffee, it's going to destroy the hydrogen and the oxygen and make it damaging to your cells.
Wow. How should you heat up the food?
Very simple. If you are going to heat it up, the best way to do it is with a dehydrator. If you want to cook it then then you do it on slow heat.
Slow heat.
So about 10% of our diet is cooked plant-based organic food.
Okay.
But the reality is for years and years it was not. And what we've learned since 1956 is that nobody who has catastrophic disease eats cooked food. We want to keep their immune system so beat up at such a high level that for 2.5, 3 years in some cases, they're 100% plant-based and raw. A lot of juices. And again, it's not boring. You've eaten at Hippocrates. So
Oh, yeah.
we make things that...
Oh, it tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes
That's
great.
good.
So we make raw tacos and raw pizza and
Yeah.
raw. They had Italian food. That
Yeah.
my Italian friends say, "What do you mean this isn't cooked? It tastes like pasta."
Yeah, yeah.
So we talked about air filtration, water distillation, wearing proper clothing, eating clean food. But as important is I take a sauna and Anna Maria take a sauna 365 days a year.
Is that an infrared
Every
sauna?
morning.
Infrared. Now,
Yeah.
not always. Let's be candid. I go to the LA Fitness if that's all I can find. And why an infrared sauna is so much better. You get 87% more heavy metals, chemicals, and plastics out of your body than a normal Swedish sauna. Sorry, honey.
Yeah.
But again, a normal Swedish sauna is going to take a lot of that out too.
Now, that kind of goes back to when we were talking about frequencies, right?
You got it.
Yes.
Infrared sauna, it's throwing off a certain frequency.
That's right. And the new ones, they're great. They have infrared and they also have red light, which is close. So one goes through the body and one heats closely in.
Right.
So I go to cryo, which is not always available. Cold plunges are.
Okay.
We've had one at the Institute since we opened our doors 38 years ago here at the Institute. But the most important thing is when you get into a cryo unit, the one I go into is 170 degrees below zero. It just jolts the immune system. I immediately get out and take red light for 15 minutes.
Nice.
So you go from one extreme to the other. It activates the immune system and pulls toxic waste out of the body. But the most important is drinking adequate amounts. 65 to 70% of the public are dehydrated. And Eastern Indian medical doctor from England wrote a wonderful book. You're not sick, you're dehydrated. And in that book, this is 30 years ago, he pointed out that a lot of these disorders we have, look at the brain as an example, foggy brain. 70% of your body is water, 80% of your brain. If you have 3% less water, you get foggy brain. You can't think straight. And so this body and cells need hydration. And if you don't have it, it's going to get thick, it's going to get clotty, you're going to be more toxic, your organ's going to carry more poisons in it and not be able to release it. So simple things that are not expensive. How about exercise?
Move
Yes.
your body.
That's the natural way to perspire. That's the natural way to let poison out. But, less than 5% of people in the West, including the United States, exercise adequately. If you watch TV, you think everyone's exercising 24 hours a day. Only 5% of the population do
That's
adequate
scary.
amounts. It's scary.
It's very scary.
Of exercise.
And all you have to do, and I tell people, it's like, I try to not even use the word exercise. I tell people, just move your body
Movement.
consistently for 20 to 30 minutes. Start off with 20 to 30 minutes, right? If you like to garden nonstop for 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Do something.
And you're happy. Now we know after 3 years of a 5-minute walk after dinner at night, you prolong your life by 3 years.
Wow.
Now, who the hell doesn't want to spend 5 minutes walking after dinner to prolong your life 3 years?
3 years.
So that means you go from 80 years old to 83. Now, what about if you do a half an hour?
Imagine that.
Imagine. So these are the simple things that we not only read about, but we employ.
Right.
And clinically, we watch and observe what happens to people. They come back to life. Their youth comes back. Their hair turns to the natural color. Their sexuality comes back. This is what happens when you do the right thing. Besides being known for people coming to us with disease, the Hollywood set comes to us. The top athletes in the world come to us. I don't want to name names, but the top tennis players on both male and female sides are all on the Hippocrates diet.
Yeah.
The top actors are sent here. I asked the trainer why. He said, "Oh, sure. It takes us 6 months to get them in shape. After they come from you, it takes 2 months. And now we have them on screen, and they're buffed up and ready to go."
Incredible.
Because this is the highest protein diet in the world. You say, well, how do you get protein without meat? That's the propaganda they put in your head. I haven't eaten meat since 1969.
Wow.
I have more protein Stack me up against anyone.
Have you guys seen like an increase in infertility? With,
Oh, you
Oh,
bet.
yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah, 1 in 6 couples cannot conceive. This is huge. This is a pandemic where, young couples cannot conceive. And the thing is, a big part of that, when they come to the Institute and go through our program, they can. So you could see what detox and eating the right food is doing to them. We've been so fortunate. So many couples have come to us who tried everything, who even tried the fertility clinics, and they were told it's not going to happen. And naturally it happened.
Years ago, we ran out of space at our dining area. We used to have many, many dozens of pictures of babies people couldn't have. So we're known. We're one of the destinations in the world for people coming. Not that we impregnate them, but we allow them to.
No, but the thing is there has been a huge uptick in infertility. And when I was at the fire department, a lot of young guys, they were seeing these fertility doctors and even spending up to $100,000 doing the IVF. They weren't successful.
For young guys your age, let's give the statistics. 40-year-old young men in this country, 50% have erectile dysfunction. When I began my work in the 70s, that was 80-year-old men, 70-year-old men. So when 40-year-old young guys cannot have an erection and cannot create enough seed to impregnate their wife, that's serious. But it's the same exact reason boys don't know their boys and girls don't know their girls. It's the same reason we have cancer, the number one killer of our infants today. It's the same reason we have all of these problems. It's an easy answer. It's lifestyle, 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 lifestyle. There's not a second answer.
Right. Yeah.
And there's the laptop and the cell phone in your pocket that has to go.
Yeah. That's
time.
really, all of that different type of, energy that's coming from those cell phones. It's just killing everything.
The listeners have to look up America's hero on this, Dr. Devra, D-E-V-R-A, Davis. She is an epidemiologist, and she works with Stanford, University of California, University of Sydney, Yale, and does work that you never hear about. Mainstream never lets you know. And there's a new form of cancer that docs call it the LG cancer, the Samsung cancer, the Apple cancer, because young women somehow think their brasiers are not just for breast. So they put the cell phone in, and now the exact shape of the battery is a cancer.
No way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And don't worry, boys, we're not going to leave you out. First, it was Yale said when you put it into the pocket, within 30 seconds, 40% of the sperm is neutered. It was reconfirmed by Exeter, which is an Ivy League university in England where I've lectured. So same exact number. Wow. So when you have two great organizations like that, it's a done deal. Laptop computers, brain cancers. Look these people up, people. Dr. Hardell, who's an oncologist. Talk about him. You interviewed him years ago.
He has the longest study. He's a professor in Sweden, and he has the longest study, like 20 years, because Sweden and Finland, we had cell phone far beyond.
They created
much
the
earlier,
cell phone
much earlier than any other country. So we have, followed 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and found the brain cancer tripled with having cell phone, and especially to your ear.
Wow.
And I was thinking the other day, why do we all put it to our ear? Well, we were we had the phones that we had to sit right by the table, and we still think we'd have to do that. We put it on the speaker.
And there's protection. Wow. Look at Anna Maria worked with a German physicist. I've been wearing this for 11 years. I've never taken
guys,
it.
I want you guys to listen to what they're saying, because this is so important, because we spend day in and day out doing business on these phone calls. And now it's like even the medical field, it's just telemedicine.
Yeah.
So forget about the patients for a second.
Let's
think about ourselves.
Exactly.
So talk to us about some of the things that people could do.
Well, there's a device that we have in our house and in my office at the Institute called a wave writer that was put together by a Russian physicist that learned it by default. The Russian Navy, when the kids would be in the submarines for 6 months a year, they'd come back and these 20-year-old boys were all sick as a dog. And they'd go into the hospital and the doctor couldn't find tumors or cardiovascular disease, and some were dying. And some were having nervous breakdowns. So they sent him in because all the docs failed. And he found out it was the 5G. And the difference between 5G in a sub that doesn't leave the sub and bounces back and forth on the wall, and in this room, as bad as it is in this room, it's nowhere close to what it's in the sub. Oh, wow. And so once he found it, he finally fled Russia and came to the United States, the rest of the story. And the Russian government, when you discover something, you have to remedy it. So they said, well, find a remedy. He knew nothing about this. This was completely going to a different planet for him. He found a way to take the frequencies and attract them. It's a felt device that picks up radiation from it. That's called a wave rider. You can get these. We have them in our homes. I wouldn't live in a house without this. The latest is called a cocoon. We put different cards in. This is the top physicist in the world. Okay. He works at the Max Planck Institute in Switzerland. And the different cards, I don't have a problem sleeping, but there's one for sleep. And I notice when I'm home, I sleep much, much deeper than when I'm traveling.
I would assume that some of these technologies that you're talking about are good for when you travel on airplanes.
Oh, you bet it is. This is, as an example, around our neck, we have a personal air purification system that literally 3 feet in every direction prevents microbes from coming in. We also use this when we're in big crowds of people. Nobody even knows what it is. You stick it here.
I'm going to have to get one of those.
Oh, yeah. They're inexpensive.
I have that beautiful real live moss wall, to clean up the air in here.
You're right. That's a Norwegian invention.
Yes.
And the moss actually picks it up. So, I mean, there's so many. It's not we're just sitting here talking about problems. There's remedies, real life, scientifically validated remedies that we prove work.
Right.
We don't guess these things. I'm from New York. I don't trust anything. So let me be honest with you. When I grew up, I'll tell you a great story. My boy is now 45 years old, and he's walking with me in the city when he's 12. And this guy's walking close behind me. And when you're a New Yorker, when you have radar. Yeah. So we finally get to a light, and we couldn't cross the street. And I turn around. I won't say the words I said, but what the are you doing? I said, Dr. Clement, I just wanted your autograph. And so my boy, now in his 40s, never lets me forget. What an asshole he was.
Guy just wanted your autograph, huh? Yeah. But you're making a good point here. It's very important for us to make sure we're feeding our bodies the right thing. But it's going to be very difficult for us to get away from all of the stuff that's being built around us, and not everyone's going to conform to it. So a lot of these different points
devices,
that you made,
therapies, treatments,
it's something that you need to implement into your life so you can be healthy.
These used to be called spa things or luxury things or only wealthy people. These are no longer optional.
Right.
To maintain not even a great, but a normal life on the planet. Why do I go to cryo when I eat like a saint for the last 55 years? Why do I exercise like a maniac when I'm in my mid-70s?
Yeah.
Why do I eat the purest food in the world? Because I'm some, special person? No. I'm just like you. I want to live. Yeah. I want to live a long, healthy life. I don't want to be hooked up in a hospital bed dying and leaving my family penniless. Yeah. And that's what's going on at this point. I don't want to be one of the statistics you have. And it's really an option, people. It's up to you. But you've been trained, you've been brainwashed to believe it's not up to you, it's genetic. That's complete crap. That, by the way, they blame your great-grandmother who you never met because you're sick. Mm-hmm. They don't say it's the hamburgers you ate, the booze you're drinking, the shit you're thinking, the negativity in your lifestyle, the mold in your walls. I mean, these things are all what's happening, and we're all facing them.
Well, there's something else that we've been able to figure out is that a lot of these toxins can come from other family members, but you could still detoxify those toxins that you get from grandma or mom that are in your cells.
Of course you can. There's nothing, remember, the human body completely regenerates in 7 years. Mm-hmm. So that means if we come back here, we test our bodies, every cell, we have about 100 trillion cells, and come back 7 years from today, not one piece of you or I are here.
Yeah.
Now, the heart regenerates in 30 days. Stomach lining in 5 days. Parts of the brain, 2 days. Wow. So you have brand new. Why? Because these things are constantly replenishing themselves. And so once you start to feed it psychologically, biologically, the right thing, through food, exercise, hydration, etc., it generates the way it should. It regenerates the way it should. So it's like you have a building that's in disrepair. You knock the damn thing down and start over again. It's not you're going to have to die. It's not you have to trash the building. You have to rebuild the building. And you just have to have the wherewithal, the drive. I don't think it takes intellect. I think it takes instinct.
Yeah. And these are one of the questions that I always get approached with is, well, this is only for the rich and famous. It's expensive. And I feel like it really isn't that. I mean, it's just really understanding, getting some base knowledge of the things that you need to do every day to live a healthier life. And now you're even starting to see these construction companies. Before, it used to be a big thing about these smart homes.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's about the big biohacking homes.
Yes,
where now people, they're building out their homes with the infrared sauna, with the cold plunge,
Exactly.
with the vitamin rain shower, everything that you
Exactly.
could think of.
Exactly.
They're doing it. And it's something that I'm actually wanting to consider myself.
I'm
where you
doing
could
it. As we speak, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Wake up, and you go through your whole routine and you have everything there. I feel like that's the way where we're going.
Yeah. And the more of us that do it, the less expensive it becomes. And you're still talking about an Anglo-Saxon thing.
Right.
So let's talk about when I went to India and I taught this. I was in Calcutta with the poorest people. I cry in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I did it there. Wow. I went to Egypt and I taught this. And let me tell you, you don't have to be fancy and we don't have to go to the whole food market to buy this stuff. You can do it on the street with seeds, nuts, grains, and beans. And by the way, what is a cold plunge? Getting into cold water.
Right.
That's all it is. What is a sauna? Sweating, getting the body hot.
Right.
So work out when it's sunny. The fact of the matter is we fancy things up, and yes, for the convenience of our rapid moving lives, we need to put these in our home. But you don't need to have money to do this.
I mean, a lot of the stuff you could do free. Like, you want to do grounding? Go outside, take your shoes
bet.
off,
You
ground,
bet.
right? Get connected to the frequency of the earth. You want red light? Wake up early and
bet.
get that first
You
light.
bet.
Free.
Bet. You bet. Free.
We're not even going to charge
And
you
it's
for it.
more pleasant than
Right.
sitting in that damn red light.
Exactly.
Yeah. And look at the ocean we have. People move to Florida because of the ocean. You know what percentage actually use the ocean?
Not many.
1.5%.
Wow.
So we have the third largest populous state in the union now, and we have 1.5% of people that ever go to the beach. That means 98.5% never visit the beach, and they move to the state of Florida because of the beach.
Wow.
This is nobody's moving, nobody's exercising. Netflix has captured you.
That's crazy. Brian and Anna Maria, what is one thing you really want to leave everybody with?
Well, I like the first thing is, yes, this is not a lifestyle for the rich and famous. This is a lifestyle for everybody. And what we teach at the Institute, if you start with seeds, you start with grains, we can sprout. And we have a lot of literature. We have our own magazine called Healing
Online
the World.
programs.
We have online programs. There's so many ways. We're on YouTube.
Doctor
You can
days
look-
for the docs out there.
You can look up Anna Maria, you can look up Brian Clement, and you can see tons of films that we have. We can teach you how to do things, how to sprout, how to juice. It's all out there. And, it has to be easy for you to do it. But there is a transition, and it is how willing are you to change? That's the whole question.
Yeah, and I think what we have to do is have gratitude. Every day when you get up, thank God for your life.
Absolutely.
Even if you had a tough childhood, thank your mother and father. They probably did the best they knew how to do.
Right.
These are things that are lost in our society today. And if you have gratitude, all at once you start to want to take care of yourself. Start to respect the life you have. It's too hard to do that. No, you don't have that attitude when you say that. It's too hard not to live in a healthy way. It's too hard to be negative and pessimistic. And I believe we're in an opportune time in America now. And we have a shot, not a great chance, but a shot to go against the evil forces that have manipulated and controlled you and your families in generation after generation. And I mean the forces of industry that poison you, and then the resolve is poison you more. We have a time to change that. And we're the hospital of the future. So anyone that basically wants to see what it will look like when it's successful, come and visit us. We've done it for a long, long time. And we're willing and ready to teach anyone and share this with anyone This is not something that we want to hold back on. We want everyone to share the joy and the happiness and the fulfillment we have by watching people recover and prevent disease and aging.
I love that. And Brian and Anna Maria, where can people find you guys?
Hippocrates Health Institute.
.org, we're a
.org.
nonprofit.
Yes.
And also Hippocrates Wellness.org. And as Anna pointed out, we created an organization with a good friend of ours in New York years ago called The Real Truth About Health. And we have hundreds and hundreds of hours with the real leaders, not the newbies, but the real leaders. So you docs listening, if you want to learn from guys who've done this 50, 40, 60 years, get on The Real Truth About Health, and you can access all of the programs that hundreds of doctors have done over the last 11 years.
You can also come and have a tour.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful tour.
Yeah.
I love that tour of many, many acres of tons of health and wellness things that are so future thinking that we haven't even talked about, that you'll just be amazed. So I love it. And everyone who's listening, you'll have all the links here down below so you can follow and navigate. All their social media is going to be tagged here. And guys, I really do believe in what Brian and Anna Maria are doing. You know, you guys have seen them. He's got a chapter in my book. You heard him talk at the Vibe conference. He's here on the podcast. As I continue to grow in the health and wellness space, Brian and Anna Maria, you guys are coming with me, you know, and we got to get this message out to the masses. It's a must. And what you guys are doing is you're really changing the course of medicine. And I think the next 4 years with the new election, it's our time. It's our time to shine. It's time for us to be loud and not have to worry about a lot of these three-letter governing agencies that are out there down our throats. It's time to make that change. And, you know, the people that are listening, how Brian said, you could either fall into the system and be a statistic, or you can make a change. You can make a change for yourself and for your patients and truly bring health back into healthcare.
Well said, Sam.
Guys,
Thank you
for being on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, follow, leave comments, share it with all your friends, and we'll be here for the next one.